Hello to everybody out there on YouTube and Instagram. This is Makeda Valletta, also known as the Renaissance Amazon, and I'm reporting live from Madrid, Spain. I am live on IG, and I'm recording a video for YouTube. I wanted to go live on YouTube because sometimes it's nice to get your input, but apparently the internet in where I'm at in Madrid is super slow. Okay, I feel like Costa Rica in 2006 where you have like dial-up internet. So I'm not doing it live on YouTube because I don't want it to be too staticky as my other videos were. So welcome. And in this video, I'm going to talk about what I loved about Paris and Amsterdam, and also how I got robbed in Amsterdam for my phone, okay? So this is my first time coming to this side of the ocean. I'm from New York City, born and raised, and I live in Chicago. My family is American. And so I decided to venture over to London, to Amsterdam, Paris, Milan, and Madrid, Spain, just to get a taste and see, where I would like to come back to, because there's other cities in Spain, other cities in Italy, other cities in France to also explore. But out of the places that I went, I didn't make it to Milan because I missed my flight because the traveling rules in Europe are different than the States in terms of liquids and stuff. It's totally different rules. Like, I travel all the time in the States, and I've traveled to the Caribbean and South America, and there's no rule on the amount of liquids that you can have, but apparently in London, on this side of the ocean, all of your liquids have to fit in a Ziploc bag. So we have the rule that we can't take more than like 3.4 ounces onto a plane of a certain liquid, but in Europe you have to put all your liquids in one plastic, like sandwich-sized Ziploc bag. It has to fit in there, has to close with no hole at all, no space, no holes in the bag. Then they test the liquid, and then they give it back to you. So if your liquids exceed that, you have to throw some of it out. So I didn't know this, and I'm trying to fit my stuff and all this, stuff that happens. They found a grinder for weed, and apparently there was a problem with that. And I've been places before, people have seen my weed grinder, and it wasn't an issue, but so that caused me to miss my flight to Milan. So I stayed in London longer. But out of the 4 places that I went to, I really, really loved Paris, and I really, really loved Amsterdam. Okay, now it's interesting because me being from New York, I like people that have good style. I love going places where people can dress. Growing up in New York City, and to me, style and fashion is not about following a trend or wearing certain name brands. I like my eyes to be stimulated when I move around. That inspires me. That's one thing I loved about living in New York, is that you constantly see people with fly outfits. You constantly see people with fly sneakers. And you see people with different types of styles. You're not seeing the same style all the time, But when I was growing up, when I was in high school, that was in the 90s, even in the wintertime, people wore colors, but that's when like the big bubble jackets were in. So people might have had red, blue, gold, yellow. Or I remember when I was in junior high, it was Columbia jackets. Those were a bunch of different colors. But now in New York in the winter, most people just have on black and gray and brown. They look so drab. And I'm like, you don't have to be drab because it's wintertime, If you look at a fashion spread in Essence magazine, any fashion magazine, in the wintertime, people can still do colors. They could do off-whites, they could do browns, you could do grays, but you can also do colors like purples and pinks and reds and whatever other color you want to wear, right? And so in Amsterdam, I love the fact that they could dress. I loved how they dressed, and it was like a practical, comfortable, cute type of dress, but people could dress there. Their color combinations, the clothes were made well, like I remember seeing a man that had on an orange coat, yellow pants, and orange and yellow sneakers, an older white man, and the clothes were well made, and that's the kind of coordination that I like. Like, why does everything have to be black all the time, Do stuff with colors and have it coordinate. They impressed me with that in Amsterdam, and that was across the board. Also, Amsterdam is a wonderful place to go shopping. Like, I feel like that's like my number one favorite place that I want to go shopping, especially for winter clothes. But because I don't know what they sell for the summer because I didn't see that. But the coats, I got a fly ass fucking coat there, and that surprised me. I didn't know that I would love the clothes and the shopping so much. Of course, or how people dress. Of course, because in New York, it's like you could be fly with sneakers on. You got girls, black, Puerto Rican, well, let me say Hispanic, Dominican, Asian, white, whatever ethnicity that looks cute with sneakers on. Like you see people selling ices and they got fly sneakers on. And it's just like just having a unique style. And living in New York, taking the train, I always would, you could just sit there and people watch. You see so many different kinds of people that look different ways, that have different styles. And that always inspired me about New York. That's something I always loved. And so I felt that way in Amsterdam. And I felt that way in Paris, for sure. In Paris, like people in Amsterdam could dress. People in Paris took it a little bit funkier with it. You know what I'm saying? People in Amsterdam, they could dress, but they kind of stayed in with a normal range. Whereas in Paris, they took more risks, like in New York, right? Also, in Paris, you see these hats, the berets, they really do wear them. But it's funny because when I was a kid, I always wore these hats, okay? I still love them. I used to be into painting, and I used to always have on a beret. Oh, shit. A beret or a tam on my head. And so it's funny because in Paris, like, that's like the stereotype about them, but they actually do wear them, okay? And so I love that. I think these hats are so cute and unique. As soon as I got off the plane in Paris, it was like I saw some of the most beautiful black people I've ever seen in my life, like men and women, like so beautiful. You just wanted to pet them or something, like I saw black women with stunning faces, stunning their hair, the way they dress, and Paris was way more black than I thought. Like, I knew there were black people in Paris. I knew it. But I didn't know it was so many. Like, I felt like I was in Brooklyn or just anywhere in New York. Because no matter where you are in New York, even if you're like in Chelsea, which is mostly white people live in that neighborhood, if you're in Chelsea, you're going to see tons of black people everywhere, And that's how I was in Paris. And I really like that. And some of them look African and some of them look like us. When I say us, I mean black people from the other side of the water, Afro-Americans or Caribbeans, whatever. Like you could have put them in D.C. or you could put them in Atlanta or you could put them in New Orleans or New York and not be able to tell they weren't from there. Other people look straight up African, But Paris is super, super black. It's super diverse. Actually, not just super black, super diverse. Paris had like equal part white, black, Arab, Asian. There were lots and lots of Asians, lots and lots of Arab, Muslim, like every corner of the globe. It reminded me so much of New York, And the neighborhood that I live in Chicago is called Rogers Park. It's one of the most diverse neighborhoods in America. And in my neighborhood in Chicago, I see equal parts everything. And I like that. I actually like diversity. I want to be around black people, but I like to be around all kinds of people. I like to be around all kinds of people who are cool. And there's not this tension, okay? Can we all just get along, right? And learn from each other, exchange, and have respect. So in Paris, I like that, okay? I like the fact that Paris had a lot of stores that were open. Like, it's a late city. People eat dinner late, which is good because I eat dinner late. I'm not an early dinner person. I'm a night person. In Paris, it's not normal for people to go to dinner at 9 p.m. The ice cream Haagen-Dazs place was open at like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And so I like that. I like the access to stuff and the fact that every time I got off the train, it was popping. There was so many different like neighborhoods. Like no matter what train stop I got off at in Paris, when I came outside, there were tons of restaurants, stores, people, the streets going all these different directions. And I really, really, really like that. Both Paris and Amsterdam are pretty easy to get around via train. And I'm going to get more in depth on those topics on my travel page. I have a travel YouTube channel that I just started called Makeda Travels. And in those videos, I'm going to get more in depth about the transportation and, what you need to know and things that could be confusing and all that. But I'm just going to say that for the most part, it's pretty easy to get around via trains. Again, the New Yorker in me likes that because I wouldn't be able to travel to these places solo if I had to rent cars. And if somebody's traveling to America, unless you go into New York or Chicago, you pretty much need a car. Like there's trains in Atlanta and LA and the Bay and Philly and DC, but I don't feel like any of them are as good as New York and Chicago. New York being number one, Chicago being number two, right? Okay, so Amsterdam, though, okay? Amsterdam and Paris both had lots of good-looking black people, which I loved. Amsterdam was beautiful. I loved the fact, and both, people in Amsterdam speak Dutch, okay? They all speak Dutch, so you hear Dutch all day long. Black people, which is crazy to me. That's what kind of blew my mind about Amsterdam, was I saw some fly-ass black women and some fly-ass black men, okay, in Amsterdam. Like, I'm like, what? This is the land of perfection, okay? I'm not even exaggerating, okay? Even the security guards, the people checking your shit at the airport, the black people were stunning. Stunning. But in very good attitudes and everything. And they all spoke Dutch, okay? And that was shocking because in Amsterdam, people speak Dutch all day. Like, they could speak English, but they don't speak English unless they have to speak to you in English, But when they're speaking to each other, they're speaking Dutch. And so you're hearing Dutch all day long, all day long, all day long, all day long. And so to see black girls that look like they could be up out of Brooklyn, they could be up out of, Atlanta or New Orleans, and they have a Dutch accent, a heavy one. But just that busting out with Dutch was amazing. But they all spoke English pretty well. And so that was really, really good. Other thing that I loved about Amsterdam, I love how active they are. I talked about this in another video. But one thing that I learned, my Airbnb host put me on to some shit that makes me really want to go back there in the winter, and I am going to go back in January. But not only do they have this bike riding culture, right, where, people's legs are strong. You talk about some chicks with some strong legs, some thighs and booty, Amsterdam, okay? But then I found out that in the wintertime, they have, because, they have all these canals, and apparently they have more canals than Venice, so 165 more canals than Venice or something. So a lot of canals and water going out through the city, this is beautiful. But my Airbnb host told me that in the winter, they pray for it to be really cold with no snow and no wind because they like to speed skate in the canals. So they will speed skate from town to town, okay? And they have these speed skating competitions. And I was like, speed skating? That's fucking crazy because I love to ice skate, okay? And right now in Madrid, it's probably like 50 degrees. It's a little cold. But when I get back to Chicago, on Sunday, the low is going to be like in the teens, And at first I'm like, damn, but then I remember how much I love to ice skate. Once I hit that ice, I don't even feel the cold. You ice skate, you keep it moving, you don't even feel cold like that. I got a really nice, beautiful, warm coat in Amsterdam that I'm ready to rock and start skating and work out and eat. The wintertime makes me want to eat, because when it's hot outside, I don't really want to eat. It's too hot. I just be wanting fruit, Wintertime makes you want to eat and keep active. So I actually don't mind it, and I want to go back to Amsterdam to skate because I love ice skating, okay? It's such a good workout. So to know that they have a speed skating culture, then my Airbnb host told me that, he told me that they have like intramural sports, right, in each town. And I'm gonna get more into depth on this in my other videos too. I'm gonna get more into depth about the fitness and stuff in Amsterdam. But basically they have towns compete against sports with each other. It's a big social thing. Then there was then swimming. He said that they certify kids in swimming like A, B, C, D. And like certification A, level A, might be that the kid can swim with their clothes on, deep in the water with their clothes on, okay? So, and then from that point, it goes to B, and that might be like, saving people, or, it's like, no. B, I think he said, was being able to stay in the water for a certain amount of time with your arms up, and just being able to keep yourself your head above water using your feet. C might be saving people. So there's different certifications. And he said, it's up to you how far you want to go with it, but a lot of people do. And I feel like that was great because the certification A of a kid being able to swim with their clothes on in deep water is really protective of the kid. That means if somebody throws that kid in the water or that kid falls in the water, they're not going to drown. And kids drown all the time. So I felt like, how much they embed that. And I have a lot more to say about it, about the healthcare system and stuff that I learned in Amsterdam. And I'm going to post that on another video on my page, The Body Scientist 81. So more to come on health in Amsterdam. So if you want to learn more about that, be sure to check out the other video. Also, of course, I love the coffee shops, which sell good herb, and you can just go and smoke and buy weed, and they're everywhere, and they're open till like 1 in the morning. You could get weed later than you can get food. So I did like that about Amsterdam because I am a weed smoker proudly. I believe in cannabis medicine, always have and always will. And not just smoking it, but also topically, all those things. I'm totally about that. So I love that. And I love that it's not a big deal. And if you actually smoke cigarettes in Amsterdam, you're the outcast. Like, you're not allowed to, like, the places, you could be in bars or coffee shops. Smoking weed is fine, but smoking cigarettes is banned. There'll be like a no smoking cigarette sign. Everybody's smoking blunts at the bar. And blunts, I smoke blunts, but blunts or joints or whatever at the bar. And it's like, cigarette smokers, nope, you got to go outside. Or they'll have like a separate room for people who smoke cigarettes. And I find that hilarious. In Amsterdam, the people were really calm. They're very direct, okay? They're very direct. Direct in a way that it's not mean. It's not mean, but I can see how somebody could perceive it as being mean. But it's also like I would sugarcoat it a little bit more. Like, so for example, when I first got on the train in Amsterdam and I was leaving the airport and I was going to where I was going to, I was on the phone with my mom, right, talking to her. And it was late. It might have been like 1 in the morning or 12:30 in the morning or something. I'm talking to my mom, and I see this old married couple, like sitting like a couple seats in front of me. Next thing I know, I'm talking to my mom. I look up, and this older white man is in my face, like literally like in my face. And he says, "This is the silent car," right? And I was thrown off because I just look up, and he's in my face. And he just said, "This is the silent car." And at first, I was offended. And I was about to say something, but before I could say anything, I was like, and he like points to the glass, and on the glass it said "silence," right? And then, so he pointed to that, and then I was like, and then he pointed that way, which is to another car where you could talk, right? So I was like, so then I scrambled, and grabbed my stuff, and went to the other car. Because at first I'm like, why is he in my face? And why you act like I can't talk? But before I could say that, I noticed that it said silence, and he pointed to where I could go, and he was just being direct. Like, it wasn't even rude, it was just what it was. Now, to me, I thought if it were me, I would first say, "Excuse me," look, before I just got in somebody's face and started telling them something, I would say, "Excuse me" first, or, but he wasn't like that, direct. Then I'm sitting on the train platform later that night with the dude from there and some Haitians from Miami that I met in the airport, which is really cool because I met just I made some Haitian, me and Haitians, I don't know, like I resonate with them, but in the airport, who had also just left London, and they had been in Amsterdam already, went to London, and then was coming back to Amsterdam before they flew out, and they lived in Miami, and they were also complaining about how bad the food was in London, because I'm telling you, that shit was horrible. And I just did a video that I just posted on my page, The Body Scientist 81, talking about the food in London in depth, so go check that out. But yeah, so I ended up not being able to get to my town that I was staying in because I wasn't staying in Amsterdam. I was staying in another town some distance. I didn't know the last train from the airport to that town was like at 11:50, so I missed it. And so I put my bags in storage, went to Amsterdam to go hang with the dudes I met in the airport. Then we came back. So we're standing on the train platform, and I'm talking to this dude from Amsterdam. He's smoking a cigarette, whatever. This white woman, and the dude was like my complexion, so you can say he's black, right? So this older white woman, we're like standing in a circle. She comes and steps right in the middle of the circle, right in this dude's face, right, like dead in his face, and was like, "Excuse me, you're smoking a cigarette. can you please put it out before something? I don't know if she said before she calls somebody or gives them a fine. I don't know. But she was very direct. And then she said, thank you. And she said it very sternly and stepped out of the circle. And he put the cigarette out. But she wasn't like, excuse me, sir. No. It was just dead right to the point, okay? So I noticed that. I'm like, okay, people here are very direct. They're very direct. And I respect that. I respect being very direct over being mousy, okay, and quiet. But in Paris, people remind me of New Yorkers. Whoever says that that Parisians are mean, I heard that so much. Oh, Parisians are mean. Then I heard people say, oh, they're mean if you don't try to speak French, but if you try to speak French, blah, blah. But see, for me, I don't speak French, okay? I didn't study French. That's not my fucking thing. Spanish, I can do, okay? I studied Spanish for a long time. It resonates with me. I speak a little Spanish. I don't really even like the sound of French that much, okay? But because I studied Latin and because I've studied Spanish, I understand some French. I understand when I'm reading it, not when I'm listening to it, because it doesn't sound what it looks like. But the root words, a lot of them are very similar to Spanish, Latin, English, whatever, and so I can understand certain things when I'm reading it. But French is not my thing, right? I wasn't really trying to learn French. Now being in Paris makes me want to learn French a little because I found like the black people in Paris were so interesting. I just want to be able to talk to them. But most people in Paris spoke English. Like mostly everywhere I went, they spoke English well enough for me to get what I needed, Some people didn't speak English, but most people spoke English well enough to get what I needed. So I really didn't have a problem. Like, unlike being in Cuba or Colombia, like a lot of people do not speak English. I don't know how people go to Cuba without speaking no Spanish because people in Cuba don't fucking speak English. Okay, in Paris, a lot of people do. Okay, and so, but I also found that Parisians were super helpful. Okay, so I saw like people getting on the train, just like New Yorkers, okay? People say New Yorkers are mean. That is not true. Out of all the places I travel, I feel like New Yorkers are more helpful than any other city I've been to in America, okay? And more down to earth. I spent time in D.C. I feel like D.C. people are mean. D.C. people are cliquish. There's a lot of parts of the country where I feel like, no, even in Chicago, when I ask people for directions, they look at me like, why the fuck are you talking to me? In New York, you ask somebody for help or directions, not only will they help you, but like 3 other people will jump into the conversation, I feel like New Yorkers, we don't stare at people. I found that to be rude, just staring at people. We have that kind of respect for personal space. And, you see people in New York helping people all the time. In the train stations, helping, women with babies and shoulders, helping elderly people, and I saw that a lot in Paris. I felt like people were very helpful. Anytime I needed help, people tried their best to help me. Nobody had an attitude about it, even if their English wasn't that good, and so I felt like people, and then you hear these conversations happening. Like in Paris, I didn't see a whole lot of interracial couples. You saw a little bit. I mean, I saw interracial couples in New York growing up, but it wasn't the majority. But of course, half my friends growing up were biracial, and you saw it, and it wasn't a big deal, but it wasn't the majority of what you saw. Most people were with their kind, like my Chinese friend, like Chinese mom, Chinese father, it was mostly that. And in Paris, I feel like it was the same way. Like there were some interracial couples, of course, you'll find that anywhere, and that's fine, but it wasn't like the bulk of it. Like most black men were with black women, most white men were with white women, most Asians were with Asians, but then when you saw groups of friends, I would see mixed groups of friends, and they were genuine friends who looked like they were from 4 different corners of the world. And that's what I'm used to in New York. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm used to in New York, exactly that. So Paris really reminded me of New York so much. And I want to go back and explore more because I was there for a short time period, didn't have my phone for part of that time. So my phone got stolen in Amsterdam. So how my phone got stolen in Amsterdam? My phone got stolen in Amsterdam when I was in such a blissful state, okay? Now, I travel by myself all the time. I've been to Cuba by myself. I went to Cuba by myself the first time for 2 weeks. And it was like, oh shit, what did I do after I did that? Because they really don't speak English. And I speak some Spanish, but Cubans speak in Havana, they speak like a very Caribbean Spanish, like Dominicans, and I really didn't really understand them. Like, I understand Colombians very well. I understand Mexicans very well. But, and Puerto Ricans, depends, I understand. But Dominicans, I'm like, what? Now, in Havana, and they talk really fast, and they talk a lot too, right? So at first I was like, oh shit. But Cuba, I've been to Colombia 3 times by myself. Last time I was in Colombia, I was there for like 5 weeks. Um, uh, and I've been to Haiti. I've been a lot of places, whatever. I have never, even in the States, okay, I've never been robbed before, okay? So I'm not like slow. Like I know how to pay attention to shit and keep my stuff on me. I have this waist belt that I wear around my waist that some of you may or may have not noticed. And I have like inner pockets. I put my passport, my money, everything like inside the inner pocket that's around my waist, buckled. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, so this night I was looking for ice cream. Which is one thing that bothered me about Amsterdam and Paris. I couldn't find ice cream the way I wanted to find ice cream. Apparently, all the ice cream places in Amsterdam close in the winter. Okay, it's a summer thing. But I was trying to find a place. My navigation was telling me where to go in Amsterdam. My phone died. I get there. The place was not open. So then I'm like, fuck. I had money that I had to transfer into... I had money in one account that I needed to transfer to my bank account so that I could pay for my ticket to go back to where I was staying. And I forgot to do this, right? I forgot to transfer this money into this account. So I was like, fuck, now I need the internet. I need my phone to come back on so I could transfer this money and then I could get on the train and go back. But the outlet, because, you have different outlets. There's different outlets on this side. So there's adapters that you have to use. And the adapter piece that I had would not fit in any of the outlets that I was trying to plug it into in the train station at all. It wouldn't fit. So I was like, fuck. The only other thing I could do is go to a bar, right? Bar or coffee shop, because the bars and coffee shops have charging stations in Amsterdam where you can plug in your phones and pay money and lock it up, right? So that's what I had to do. So I do that, and I'm sitting there at the bar bored because while my phone is locked up, I can't look at it while it's charging. So I'm sitting there, so I just roll a blunt, sitting there smoking a blunt, mind my business. And then this older white Irish man started speaking to me. And he was like, oh, I'm not bothering you. And I'm like, I'm not doing nothing. Like, I'm bored anyway. So we're talking about whatever. And then he had already been drinking. So he just starts buying me shots. And the bartender was from Italy. She was from Milan. She was super cute. Like, there was some attractive women in Amsterdam. But she was an attractive Italian girl. But she was from Milan. And I told her, oh, I was supposed to go to Milan, but I missed my flight. She told me, don't go to Milan. She said, go to the south of France. She told me to go to the south of France. It was better. She wrote down some towns for me to go to, and 2 of them I had never heard of before. And she's like, oh, it's so much better there. Like, forget Milan, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So she's giving us shots. He's buying shots. I'm sitting there. I'm like, okay. Then I'm smoking my blunt. I go to the bathroom, right? And as I walk down the stairs to go to the bathroom, I walk downstairs and like there's 2 men sitting there, and this one man, he looked like he had good, cool. He just puts up a joint, like, hey, like, here, have a toke or whatever. And so me and him start speaking. Come to find out, he was from Italy, he was from Milan, right? So he asked me where I was from. I said I'm from New York, and he's just like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I look to my left, and I see the man that was sitting there with him was a beautiful man, okay? Beautiful man. And he was from South Africa. But he was super beautiful. Like, I felt like if he was walking down the street in New York, somebody would snatch him up and put him on the cover of Vogue, right? And he was in Amsterdam for business, but he was really interesting. So I'm like, but he got my attention, so we're talking. I go to the bathroom. I come back, and I'm sitting there talking to these 2, right? And I thought at first that the Italian guy and the guy from South Africa, I thought they were together, like they were a couple or they were together. I don't know. But then the Italian guy starts flirting with me, so I'm thinking, are they together? Are they not? I don't know. And but we're talking, and so at one point the South African guy got up to go do something, and then Michael Jackson comes on. And the Italian dude is just jamming to Michael Jackson, right? Jamming. He's doing the whole performance, okay? He got the whole performance. And so I'm laughing because I'm thinking the whole time I've been over here, all I hear is Afro-American music. When I was in the UK, when I was in London, when I was in Amsterdam, Paris, all I hear is Afro-American music, right? So Anyhow, he's loving Michael Jackson. And I asked him, I said, how many languages do you speak? And he said, oh, forget how many languages I speak. Michael Jackson speaks the universal language. The universal language. And he just singing Michael Jackson. So I found it kind of funny and amusing, but he seemed cool to me. I didn't get bad vibes from him, right? And so I found it really funny how much he was loving Michael Jackson. I'm thinking about art and how it can transcend cultures and bring people together. And I'm thinking about all this stuff. Now, okay, the bar we were at was closing at 1 o'clock, right? So the South African guy was like, yo, I have to go to work tomorrow. I'm here for business. And the Italian dude kept trying to get us to go someplace else with him. Now, the thing I forgot this. The last train for me to get back to where I was going was at 11:40, right? But when I plugged my phone up and left it there, I didn't have the time. There was no clock anywhere. So by the time I got my phone back, it was like 11:30. I was like, fuck, I'm not going to make this train. So then I had to stay in Amsterdam until the morning because the next train out of there to where I was staying was until 5 in the morning. So that's when I was just like, okay, I just was chilling, right? Okay, so the South African guy, I remember at one point seeing him staring at the Italian guy. And he was staring at him in a very suspect way. I noticed that, right? And I know that men, to me, being around men, like, I have a lot of male friends, my dad, I feel like men pay a lot more attention to, like, danger. Like, I'm not going to say women don't pay attention to that, but I feel like men have, like, a real eye for some shit, you know what I'm saying, for another shady dude. So I remember seeing the South African dude staring at the Italian guy in this very suspect way. I noticed that. Okay, then he said goodbye. He went about his business. Now I start to leave, and I'm going to go to this place called the Stoner Cafe because that place is open 24 hours, right? And so I start walking. The Italian guy walks out with me, and then he's all over me, right? So he's all over me. He started being kind of touchy, right? Like, no, he was. He, like, squeezed my butt a couple times and was being kind of touchy, like, oh, my God, your body, blah, 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 right? And he was all acting excited. Now, for me, a lot of times I put things in context, and I know culturally, like, Spanish-speaking countries, Italians, some countries are more touchy-kissy-feely than others. The New Yorker in me is like kind of like back the fuck up, you in my aura, like step back. But sometimes I put things in context about who I'm dealing with and where I'm at and the mood I'm in. And a lot of times gay dudes get away with shit. I don't think the dude was gay. I think he was bisexual. But you know what I'm saying. Like, gay dudes can squeeze girls' asses and girls don't get as upset. But whatever, he was just on me and I'm like, okay, whatever. So I'm going to, I go to where I'm going to. He came to where I'm going to. He went there too. I walk in, big dance floor, right? Everybody is lit. Dancing, I loved it, right? Playing more, we go into the corner. Now, I always zip my shit up. I either did one or two things. I either put my phone in my waist belt and zipped it, or I put it in my coat pocket and zipped it. I distinctly remember zipping both of my coat pockets, making sure they were zipped. I rolled my coat up. It was on a chair under a table right next to me, right? And I'm dancing. Now, I see this black girl who looked like she might be from Philly or something, dancing her ass off. She had so much energy. I loved it. Asked her where she was from. She said with a very thick accent that she was from France, right? And I was like, okay, but she was lit, right? Loved it. Then there was, I'm looking at, they're playing DMX, and there's this white, older gay dude who looked like Elton John. He's voguing on a dance floor to DMX. I'm like, that's dope. See, I like that. Everybody in that room, they were from all over the world. There was this white couple from Ireland who was super cool. I've met Irish Americans, but never really met like straight Irish people. I don't think. Maybe some clients that I've had, but like I don't come across Irish people in the States like that. And so they were really, really cool. So I'm like, okay, so everybody is cool. Then this other girl, she looked like a Puerto Rican girl from the Bronx. She's in my face rapping songs, and no matter what came on, they played hip-hop. It could be trap music, it could be 90s hip-hop, it could be some good Spanish music. They even played this song that I never heard before that everybody in there knew by this French female rapper. I'm going to post the song because it's really, really dope, but she's a dope artist, but I'd never heard this before. And this black girl looked like she's from Atlanta. Like, if you didn't hear her speak, you would swear she's from Atlanta. But she's French. And So everybody in there knows all the songs, and I'm like, yo, this is so dope, and I'm having so much fun. I'm loving the energy, I'm loving the music, I'm loving the vibes, I'm loving how everybody's dancing, and I'm just thinking about how much I love this place, and how it's diverse in a different way than any place I've ever been to. And the girl who's in my face looks like a Puerto Rican from the Bronx. I mean, sorry, hold on. I, I think I might have said that wrong. It was very diverse in a different way than the places I'd been to, because New York, Chicago, LA, San Francisco, the Bay Area, Miami, Houston, there are many cities in America, DC, that are extremely diverse, right? But in Amsterdam, it was diverse in a different way than what I'm used to. I'm not used to being around Black Dutch people, Surinamese people, people from Ireland, French people, not really used to that. So it was super, super cool. Or people from South Africa, like the whole fucking thing, right? So I'm thinking this, right? And now the French girl, she starts dancing with me, and I love dancing with women. Okay, that makes me happy. So I'm like, okay. So she danced with me. Then she starts complimenting my body and telling me how good I look, and I'm like, thank you. Because I don't know, I have a soft spot for women. So I'm like, I'm just thinking, I'm just so happy. I love how people here are. I love how they think. I love these vibes. And then the black French girl said to me, the guy, something she said, her English wasn't that great, but she said the guy that I was with or that was around me, the Italian dude, she said, he's bad. And she kept saying that, but I don't know what she meant by that, right? And then after she says that, he starts dancing, and she starts dancing with him, and they're dancing, and I start dancing again. Next thing I know, she points to the floor, and I look down, I see my sweater's on the floor, so I pick my sweater up, and then I'm like, and I don't know how my phone came out. I don't know if she asked me, do you have your phone? Or if I was looking for my phone because I was trying to get her Instagram, but I couldn't find my phone, but I was so sure that I had my phone. So first I couldn't find my phone, but I was like, I have it. It's just, I'll find it later. And she said, no. Do you have your phone? Like, do you have it? So I went and really looked through everything, could not find my phone. And I instantly knew that. And I looked, and that Italian dude was gone. I instantly knew that he took my phone, right? And the last time I remembered, and he just disappeared, right? And the last time I remembered, the last memory I had of him was him dancing with me, and I remember him grabbing my waist. Because, see, the thing is, I'm very ticklish and I'm very touchy. People who know me know this. I am very touchy. Like, I like to be touched if it's how I like to be touched. Otherwise, people touching me makes me want to elbow them in the throat. Like, I can be very ticklish. You can't just touch me any kind of way. And I remember, however he was touching me, it was like he would grab my waist or something. And I remember it irritating me and moving his hand, or I had vague memory of that. So I don't know whether he took my phone out of my waist belt, which is super duper 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 slick, or whether he was watching me so hard that he saw me zip, even though it was dark in the room, that he saw me zip it up in my coat pocket, even and my coat was next to me, balled up. I don't know. But he was watching me more than I knew he was watching me. And my phone was gone, right? And I'm like, fuck. At first, I'm thinking, like, how the fuck could this happen to me in a foreign country? Like, what the fuck? And right in a moment when I was having so much fun, I was in so much bliss. I was just thinking about how much I love this place. And at this point, it's like 2 in the morning. Now, I was thankful. Now, the next train out of there wasn't until like 5 in the morning. It was freezing. And at that point, I didn't want to be in the place I was at anymore. I didn't want to be there anymore. I was just like, I'm done. And I kind of wanted to go and see if I could find the dude, if I just saw him in the street. And I come out, and the bouncer, I asked the bouncer, do you remember the guy that I came in here with? Like, because I think he took my phone. So then the bouncer proceeds to lecture me on, the bouncer said, where are you from? I said, I'm from New York. And then he said, oh, I thought you were with that guy. I said, no, I wasn't with him like that. You just came in with me. And then he's like, oh, well, you don't, he started guilt tripping me. Like, I think sometimes when people hear that you're from New York, now, he asked me where I was from, and I said, I'm from New York. I didn't say, oh, I'm from New York, and I blah, 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 blah. I didn't say that. He asked me where I was from. I said, I'm from New York. Oh, and then I told him, I said, I travel all over, and this never happened to me. So then he's like, oh, just because you're from New York doesn't mean, or you from New York, you should know better. Like, saying some shit about New York, and I'm like, dude, this is not about New York, and why are you guilt tripping me? You know what I'm saying right now? Like, I'm very cautious. And I know a lot of people that have gotten robbed in other countries and had all kinds of shit. And like, I'm always by myself and nothing has happened. And this dude was really, really slick. And I was being very, very careful and very, very aware, but still he got me. But who wants to be guilt tripped at that moment? I'm just asking if you've seen a dude or not. You know what I'm saying? So that shit pissed me off, made me want to curse him out. So I just went to the train station and sat there for 3 hours in the cold until my train came. Now, luckily I remembered how to get back to where I was staying. And this is the thing, like, you know, being in foreign countries, you got to pay attention. Like, I use my phone a lot, but I don't just rely on that because, like, even in London, a lot of times the train they told you to take was not what the train said, or, you know, whatever, your phone could die, all kinds of shit. But I'm glad I paid attention, so I knew how to get back to where I was staying to. You know, that's how my phone got taken. And I had to, you know, eventually, you know, when I got to Paris, like maybe a couple days later, I was able to get a refurbished phone. Now, I've never used, prepaid phones. I don't even know how prepaid phones work. I've never got a refurbished phone. I've always had new phones, my own phone, whatever. So somebody told me, oh, you can get a prepaid phone. I'm like, I don't know anything about that, but does it have navigation? Because I need to be able to use navigation. So I ended up getting a refurbished phone in Paris, which is, you know, the good thing about being in a city, like you can find what you need and you can go independently and it's not crazy. So that's how my phone got taken. So when, hold on a minute, I've been talking for a long time. Let me see. Yes, 42 minutes. Let me see if I can see. I took my glasses off because let me see people's comments. Let me see what else I have in these notes. Good-looking people in Amsterdam, good-looking people in Paris. I'm coming back, okay? I'm coming back to both places. So if anybody on here lives in Paris or Amsterdam, thank you for the compliments. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Anybody lives in Paris or Amsterdam who wants to build or wants to put me on to some shit, especially the nightlife, especially the black nightlife, because I want to go back to Amsterdam. I want to explore the Surinamese population more. I want to go see where they go dancing at. I want to see where the black people dance in Paris and their nightlife and the cool black shit. I met 2 black men in Paris who were part of something. They were talking about, because the first night in Paris, I spent the night at a friend of mine in Amsterdam hooked me up with a friend of hers in Paris. He was a Congolese man. And it was very interesting because he spoke English, but he was saying, like, once he saw my Instagram, he's like, there's so many things I want to ask you, and there's so many things I want to talk to you about, but my English isn't good enough for me to say what I want to say. But I understood him fine, but he just couldn't get complicated. But he went out to a party that night, or somewhere, and he put on all black, and I don't even like all black, right? And he was an African man, and he had on all black. I like colors, but it looked nice. And he had on a black beret like this, and it was styled a certain way. And I was like, this is super fly. And then he was saying something about Black Panther something. I can't remember what it's called. Something with Black Panther something that he was going to. And then I met this Rasta dude the last day in Paris who spoke Lion. I'm going to dance to some of his music and tag him on Instagram so you'll see who I'm talking about because he has such good vibes. He reminded me of a black dude from Brooklyn, or my Rasta friends, you know, I have a friend Rostri out of St. Louis. Like, he reminded me of like the people I know in the States, in New Orleans, in New York, and he was super cool, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, I want to collaborate. There's people in Paris I want to collaborate with. But he also told me about this Black Panther or something. I forget what it was called. So he's going to have to tell me so I could tell you guys. So they were talking about this Black Panther thing. I've heard this twice, right? So the Black people in Paris had like a oomph to them that I really, really liked. I really, really dug it. I really dug it. I was on a train in Paris, and these 2 black girls, the train doors open. Sometimes I wish, you know, I had the video to show you, like, because you had to be there. And I hear this African music playing, and this tall black girl, light skin with an afro, gets on with a little dog, and I hate little dogs, but she gets with a little dog, and the other girl, her friend had a boombox. It's like, when do you see people with boomboxes anymore? And the one with the boombox sat next to me, and the other girl was across, and the girl, they were dancing in the seat, and the girl with the boombox was all bumping into me, and like we know each other, and I thought that was super cool. Then the one, and I respected, they didn't give a fuck, they didn't give a fuck. And I'm like, good, And so then the girl across from me starts talking to me in French, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't speak French. And she started speaking to me in English, and she was like talking about my nails. She's like, wow, 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 those are your nails. And they were just super cool. Like, that's what people in New York are. They say New Yorkers don't talk to people, but we do. If somebody in New York sees something, like they like your fly outfit, they think you look good, they see something you're reading that interests them, people in New York will talk to you, okay? And people in Paris are the same way. I just really dug them, Dudes in Paris, there was a few times, like, dudes are looking at me, black dudes, like, they was about to say something, but I just kept walking, But they have some type of aggression, of like, oh, let me kick it to this chick. Oh, she's cute. I didn't feel that or see that in London, I don't know. But, again, I do know that you can't go someplace once or go someplace for a couple days and think that you know so much about the place, like, before I could judge Atlanta or Chicago or Miami or DC or New Orleans, I've been there more times than I can count to those cities. LA, like all those places, I've been there more times than I can count, and I've been all over. So I really could, have a fair conversation about those cities. So, this is just based off of my week in London and my 5 days in Paris. And I think I was in Amsterdam for 4 or 5 days. But there's going to be more Amsterdam and Paris coming up. And, there's more topics. Like, even as I'm doing this video, there's so many other things I want to say. But I'm going to do them in other sub-videos, okay? So they're going to be on videos that I do on my page, The Body Scientist 81, where I get into the health, a lot more of health stuff. And then on my other YouTube page, Makeda Travels, I will get more into specific things because I'm thinking about things in Amsterdam and it just in all the places that I went to that was very different than anything I had seen. Might have been frustrating or annoying, or things you might not have expected. And so I'm going to do those in those other videos because otherwise I'll be talking on here for 2 hours. So I just really wanted to talk about why I loved Amsterdam and Paris, okay? If you haven't been, I suggest you go. If you have been or you live there, and you got things to say, things to share, please do because I'm coming back, okay? Have a great day, people. Make sure you follow me on YouTube at The Renaissance Amazon. And make sure you follow me on IG at the_Renaissance_80. Wait, the_Renaissance_Amazon_81. Okay? Have a great day. Bye.